that is like the pivot that I think changed my life and made it so that I could in the future pivot to any career.
Mm-hmm.
To give you highlights, I did stunt double for a little while, government contracting, and then I've been in tech and product and marketing for the rest. And every time I've used the same process over and over
Mm-hmm.
again to like get me into these new fields. And it's been great.
Hello, everyone. I am Danny Wigfall, and this is the Design Your Remarkable Life podcast. Here, I interview incredible individuals who are leaving their mark on the world, generating wealth, and charting their own course. So get your notepads out and let's get into it. I'm so excited to have our next guest on the show, and I have been waiting to sit down and talk to her. She is absolutely phenomenal and has had an explosive career. Well, actually, a part of her career was disarming explosives. She has mastered career transitions successfully. She has gone from being a Navy diver and bomb technician to a Hollywood stunt performer to also doing government contract proposal writing, working at Facebook, navigating health tech and fitness tech, and to now owning her own company where she is helping veterans make career transitions in a successful way. So without further ado, Kathy Borkoski. So, Kathy, welcome to the show. So great to have you.
It's so awesome to be on. I mean, I've heard such amazing things about you over the years. And so like just getting the chance to talk to you is awesome.
No, I'm so excited. You are so remarkable, and I can't wait to hear all of just the pivots, the changes, all the things you've done, you've accomplished, and how things have come full circle and things like that. So let's just dive right on in. Where did it all start for you on your career journey?
So for me, I actually thought I had a very paved road, like literally follow the yellow brick road. Because I went to the Naval Academy for college, and once you get out of there, like you're in the Navy, there's a very clear career path.
Yeah.
And I had a pretty fun, awesome one as well. When I joined the Navy after the academy, I was a Navy diver and a bomb technician, and then like I knew all the next steps. Unfortunately for me, or maybe fortunately,
Mhm.
I also realized a couple years in that like this was not the career path I wanted to stay on. And I think a
Mhm.
lot of folks no matter what you're doing, like you really think like maybe you're a doctor or a lawyer in the military, whatever it is, like you're pretty sure you're like, this is what I want to do when I'm a kid. And then you get there and you're like, no, I think I want to do other things. Um, and having to figure that out has been a career of an adventure, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say too, I love how you just threw it out there, just like, yeah, Navy diver, bomb technician, no big deal. Right. But kind of a big deal there. Is there a trajectory on that path of like what would have been next?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the Navy, when you get to pick kind of early what your major specialty is going to be, you can drive ships, you can fly planes, you can do you can be a Navy SEAL if you're male, those types of things. Um, for me, I saw this opportunity. They call it explosive ordnance disposal, and I was like, that looks amazing and awesome, and I need to do it. Um,
Yeah.
and so as an officer, like you go to dive school. I was on a diving ship for a little while. I go to bomb tech school, and then I get a team for maybe a tour or two for like 2 to 4 years tops, kind of. And
Mhm.
then after that, as an officer, you transition to more traditional officer things, still in the world of bomb techs, but more
Yeah.
traditional paperwork, admin, that sort of thing. And like that it just wasn't really my style. Um,
Hmm.
but there's a very clear path. I mean, if I really
Yeah.
wanted to push hard and I was absolutely crushing it, like you can step all the way up to like command and admiral and
Mm.
things like that. But I mean,
Okay.
that's only the best ones. But there's definitely
Okay.
there's definitely a strong path there.
Okay. Okay. But you decided that's not the path for me. I want to do something different. What was
Yes.
that? What was that like? Because that's hard to transition, I would imagine, just even making that decision of like, okay, I thought as a child, this is what I wanted to do. I've done it. I've done the thing. I'm excited, but something is maybe not fulfilling, or I want to switch. I want to transition. What was that like?
It's very scary when you have to like actually submit paperwork that says you want to make a change. And you have to
Mm,
do that like a year out. And so that's what I had to say. I this is not the journey I want to be on anymore. I want to go somewhere else. Um, The other thing I would say, so most people get out kind of knowing what they want to do. And I had no idea. I just had a belief that like, it's fine. I'll get out there. I'll figure it out. How different could it be from the military? And the short answer was very, very different.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I was like, let's get out now. This will be great. And it was November of 2008. And then
Mm-hmm.
boom, straight into the Great Recession. And so not only I've had 8 years of experience that is very challenging to make relevant to a new field, unless you work really
Yeah.
hard to do that. Um,
Yeah.
but like people weren't hiring.
Mm-hmm.
The normal roles that they would have had open, they were slow to hire, contracts weren't going out, things like that. And so like anything I thought maybe I would have done, um, was not an option. And then for me, I was like, well, maybe I just don't know what I want to do. And so I picked up a book. I was in this random university library visiting a friend, picked up a book and was like, what do you want to do with your life? Take this quiz and we'll tell you. And I was like, great,
Mm-hmm.
thank you. I would like to know. Took the quiz and it was like, oh, based on your personality, you should do sales or marketing or stunt double. And I was like, yeah, I should do stunt double. That sounds like a great idea. I know absolutely nothing about the industry, and I live
Mm-hmm.
nowhere near LA. So this sounds like a great idea. I didn't even pay for the
Mm-hmm.
book. I just stuck it back on the shelf. It changed my life, and I didn't even buy it. That's,
Wow.
and from there, that is like the pivot that I think changed my life and made it so that I could in the future pivot to any career. Um,
Mm-hmm.
to give you highlights, I did stunt double for a little while, government contracting, and then I've been in tech and product and marketing for the rest. And every time I've used the same process over and over
Mm-hmm.
again to like get me into these new fields. And it's been great.
Can you break down a little bit of what that process is? Because I would imagine that is a transition from going from stunts, right, to now I'm in product and now I'm, like that transition. Like, what is that? What can you give us from that strategy of how you were able to keep transitioning
So
for
I
something
think,
that's aligned? Mhm.
yes. And being, you can kind of, I've kind of codified it, right? So because I've seen what works and what doesn't work. And when I was a brand new officer, they told all of us, they're like, you need to network, you need to get to know people. It's going to make the difference for your career. And I was like, ha 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 ha. No. Um, how silly I was back then, because at the end of the day, who you know is what helps you break into new industries. And the
Mm.
interesting thing that I found is you don't have to know them in advance, but you have to get to know the people that are where you want to go instead of
Mm.
just the ones that you know from the past. So generally, so when I wanted to become a stunt double, I knew nothing. And so
Right.
I asked every human being I came in contact with if they knew anyone that knew anything about Hollywood or stunts. And I ran into one of my sister's husband's best friend's uncles was a producer in Hollywood. Called him and talked to him. I had a Navy SEAL friend who I found out randomly when I said it. He was like, "Oh, I did stunts for the movie 300." I was like, "Oh, let's talk about that."
Yeah.
And this happened a lot. So I was going through and just talking to anyone I could find and just asking this. Now I know that what I was doing is called informational meetings, right? I'm just
Mm-hmm.
talking to people so that I can learn a couple of things. I can learn what was their process like? What are the words that they're using to talk about their industry, to talk about the work that they do? And like, what is their experience? What do they think makes people successful in it? So then I could see, first of all, do I even want to do that? Like, I thought I wanted to be a stunt double, but like, after talking to people, and they're like, it's
Mm-hmm.
really hard. Almost no one breaks in. It's all who you know. You have to just go where they are. I was like, that sounds amazing. Did you say it's hard? I'm in.
Yeah.
Whereas other people are going to hear that and they're going to be like, maybe I'll just go do something else. And
Mm-hmm.
so like getting the real, like, what do you do all day? Like all of that kind of information from people helps you to figure out if you want to do it. And then,
Mm-hmm.
so step one is figuring out if you want to do it. So you're interviewing people to figure out if you want to do it. The second step is, how do I learn the language that you're using? So then when I talk to people in your industry, they're like, oh, this person is in. They already know it's,
Mhm.
even though they're not. So here I was, a Navy diver and bomb technician, and I knew, okay, now I've talked to a million people, I'm training where these people are, and I know the lingo. I know what a hard fall is. I know how to block for your camera and all these types of
Mhm.
things. So that it sounded like I knew what I was talking about, even though I was only like a little bit aware, until they
Yeah.
started bringing me on and hiring me. And so then I started getting a little bit of experience, and then it
Mhm.
all kind of like snowballed, right? So then
Mhm.
fast forward that to like 2 years, 15 scars or 15 stitches on a giant scar later. Um,
Ooh.
I was like, maybe I should do something else.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Now, before we continue, I want to let you know that if you are looking for a more personal touch in your own life and you want to design your own remarkable life, we would love to work with you at Whole Self Wealth. Sometimes we just need a coach. Sometimes we need a partner to partner up with us to really make it to those next levels. I want to let you know that our team is here for you. I want to connect with you so we can design what's next for you. Now, back to the show. So you talked a lot about networking, and then you talked about like knowing if this is for you. And then I love how you were able to just like talk to so many different people. And I'm going to ask you something that may seem very basic, but it's something that we all need when talking to other people is how do you start that conversation talking to someone you may not know when it comes to networking? How do you reach out to them? Are there any tips or strategies you have there?
So I'll break it into two pieces. The first one is like even getting to have that conversation. And then the second piece is how do you have the conversation?
Yeah.
And now that I've also pivoted into government contracting, tech, startups, those other like types of companies, um, it's I have this like really nailed down process for LinkedIn.
Mhm.
Basically, I find the industry that I want to go in. I find literally any part of our backgrounds that's similar. So like if I'm a Naval Academy grad, I'll go find other Naval Academy grads in the industry that I want to go after. So then I'll just connect with all those folks. Usually I'll just leave a very simple connection note. Like it's connect first and then ask for the chat. So connect first, and that is great to see another Academy grad in tech. Like that's as robust as my messages are. Or say it's
Yeah.
like some other thing in common, be like, hey, it's really cool what you're doing at this company. Or, oh, neat to see that you're doing that. Like very benign, very like,
Mhm.
just, hey, you're a person, I'm a person, let's connect. So I do the
Yeah.
connection first, and then I focus on the chat. And I keep it insanely short and simple because people are busy and all that kind of stuff. And I just say, hey, I really like what you're doing in either the company or the industry. I'm looking for my next thing and I'm thinking about joining your industry. Can I get your advice, Kathy?
Mhm.
That's it. Just can I get your advice? Would you be open to a chat? That's it.
Yeah.
People love to give advice. Um,
Mhm.
and you're not asking for, it's scary to like ask for jobs and stuff like that. Like you're not doing that. This person doesn't know how they can help you. Um,
Mhm.
you're truly just saying, I want to learn from you. Do you have a couple minutes? And
Mhm.
they're like, usually they do. Usually, and especially
Yeah.
if you have something in common in your background, they'll make the time for you. Military
Mhm.
veterans are highly advantaged in that we all know that we knew nothing coming out, right? And so we're
Right.
like, yes, let's
Right.
help. If you're coming out of college or a grad program or something like that, there are people that were ahead of you that would love to help. Um,
Mhm.
there's also like networking and events and things like that, and like just go meet those people. And
Yeah.
I don't talk to people just to meet them. Like you're meeting their entire network. And like, so what does that
Mhm.
mean? So then you talk about the actual conversation itself. Um,
Yeah.
it's 20, 25 minutes. Like it doesn't need to go crazy long. And if it does, then I usually cut it off by saying, hey, I want to be respectful of your time. Let's jump out of this. But the structure of the call is usually chit chat. Like first you have to connect. You have to be people first. Like who are you?
Mhm.
Oh, I'm living in Long Beach. Oh, you're doing these things. Cool, great. Talk about your whatevers, right? Just to
Yep.
connect on like a personal level. And then I
Mhm.
usually, because networking calls can be really weird on both sides. You're like, what do you want from me? How can I help you? Let's get to the point. If you're on
Right.
like a person giving the advice side. And so I would just
Mhm.
say, hey, I super appreciate your time. I'm going to be really respectful of it. I would love to learn more about your experience in the industry, things like that. I'll tell you a little bit about my background and what I'm thinking about doing next. And then
Mhm.
I'd love to see who you think I should talk to next to further
Mhm.
my knowledge. And then I also say, here is the biggest, you can give value to the person you're networking with just by saying, how can I help you? I am talking to a lot of
Mhm.
people. I am actively networking, and I know a lot of people now. Who can I connect you to? What are your career aspirations? Maybe I've spoken to someone that can help you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so just that basic framework of like connect, get down to business on like who they are and who you are, ask them any questions you have about their industry, those types of things, and then who should I talk to next to further
Mhm.
my knowledge. You're not asking for a role, you're not asking for anything like that. Um,
Mhm.
and if they like you, because you're asking a bunch of questions about them, people love to talk about themselves. I'm having a great time
Yes.
right now. Um,
Uh-huh. Mhm.
you're doing that. And if we connect and I know a role that is open, I would be like, actually my coworker has a role open and you would actually be a good fit for it. Let me refer
Yeah.
you. And there's a super secret about referrals. Internal referrals make the referrer usually a couple $1,000s. Not nothing. I mean, let's go have a
Yeah.
better Christmas, kids. Um,
Mhm.
and they also, if you're a star performer, they make that person look like a rock star. It doesn't matter that they
Yeah.
just met you. Um,
Mhm.
and the other thing is if you're pivoting, so my resume, if you look at it just as like, let me see what Kathy did, you're like, wow, what a great resume. And if you look at it as, are you qualified to do this very specific thing? You're like, this person is not qualified, not even
Mhm.
close. And so like, if you're pivoting, your resume is not going to tell the story of who you are. The only way
Right.
to tell that story is yourself because you are you are more than your resume. I know a lot of people are like, oh, my LinkedIn
Yeah.
profile. You are more than that.
Yeah.
Everything you bring, who you are, your personality, the jokes that you tell, the type of coworker you're going to be, you can only
Mhm.
get that from a conversation. And
Yeah.
so these networking calls are, don't treat it like it's not an interview, right? Like, don't, oh,
Mhm.
this is my experience and stuff like that. It's an opportunity for two people to connect and then help
Yeah.
each other out. And like, it's awesome. Like, I think it's a lot of, now that I've been doing it a lot in the last 3 years. And I
Mhm.
know for sure that if ever I'm like, I need a job in the next 2 months, I'm just going to tap back into all those folks I've spoken to. I know in the last year only, I've gotten 3 people jobs, and I've only spoken to 2 of them. One of them just was listening to my LinkedIn content. Um,
Oh, awesome.
but it's so cool to be like, this matters. This makes a difference. And
Yeah.
I get no
Yeah.
benefit from that, but I just like helping people.
Yeah, but you're also solving a problem too, in that piece for multiple people, and you're not involved, directly per se. But that's a beautiful thing as well, being able to just connect people, a connector of people too, to opportunities or whatever it may be.
Yeah. The connector is
Mm.
a really cool thing you can do, but only if you have an active network, like the active versus passive, right? Like, yeah, you
Yeah,
might know people, but if you never talk to them, then it's
true.
weird, you know? Yeah.
I'm so glad you brought that up because that is a key point. You can know a lot of people, but if you aren't active and talking and reaching out and just making a connection, then it's not going to help you.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
other interesting thing I've learned over time in talking to like different folks is how valuable like your past coworkers and your past networking it like your network is. And I think
Yeah.
people forget about it. When they go to look for the next job, they're like, oh, I just need to like look into the future, apply to jobs on job boards and stuff. But I'm like, no, no, you have coworkers who have since left the company that you guys were at, and they're
Mm-hmm.
all over the place in really cool places, and they loved working with you. They are going to
Yeah.
actively work to get you into their companies and things like this. So like
Mm-hmm.
your prior coworkers, as long as you weren't like, I hate you all, I'm never gonna work with you again.
Right, right, right. Yeah, yeah. So fill us in on what are you doing now?
So since stunt doubling, and then I was in government contracting for a little while, I went to Facebook
Yeah.
and then a couple startups. But the one experience I didn't have was
Mm.
my own startup. And so I finally took the leap. And now I have a startup that's actually doing the two things I love. We're building a product, and at the same time, we're helping military veterans that are getting out of whatever service they're in learn really important civilian skills through this. They have a program when you get out of the military called SkillBridge, and they get to do these internships for these companies. The challenge is the website and things like that. They're just difficult to navigate. Knowing exactly what you should do can be challenging. So we're creating a platform to help connect these service members coming out and these really great companies that maybe don't get as much recognition as like the Facebooks and the Googles and things like that, and like getting them in front of these folks that need that experience. So that has been awesome. And then the other thing I do is I just love helping people that came behind me, because so many people helped me get to where I am that I just produce a lot of content on LinkedIn and things like that on how to transition, how to do the interviews and things like that. So I absolutely love what you're doing, Danny, because you're taking that to a longer form version with like this podcast and other great things.
Yeah, no. And I love seeing your videos too, as well, you know? And I was just like, oh, person A and person B, when you're doing the roles of like, when you're interviewing, here are some tips on how you should do this. And I was like, oh, that's so good. It's like practical knowledge that we need to know. And it's like, you're giving us the tools right there. I love that. Absolutely. And not to just breeze over Facebook, like that wasn't a big deal, but can you tell me how did Facebook come into your life?
So Facebook came into my life because my wife and I moved up there. She was working for them, and she took me to lunch one day, and I was like, oh my God. First of all, the lunch was the best lunch I think I've ever eaten in my life. There were snacks everywhere. The campus is gorgeous. And I'm like, man, they get to just work on website stuff all day? Sign me up. Unfortunately, it's really hard to get into Facebook. Like, very challenging. Cream of the crop, all that kind of stuff. And so the other thing was, I had a lot of folks who were like, oh, well, you live in Silicon Valley. You can work for these other tech companies. And I was like, I live a mile behind Facebook's campus. I want to eat that food and I want to ride my bike to work. And so I committed, right? Like, I was like, I'm not just transitioning into tech. I am transitioning into Facebook specifically. This was before it was Meta, so just to date myself. And so what I did is I did exactly what I just said. I reached out on LinkedIn to every veteran I could find at Facebook and just asked for a chat. Like, hey, 15 minutes. I just want to know what you do. Because, oh my God, I don't know if you've ever cracked open the Facebook like job postings. I didn't even know what the titles meant. I'm like, what is a customer? I didn't even know what customer success was back then, or like the dev ops something. I was like, I don't even know what and I would read the job descriptions and I would like, maybe, but like, what do they do? I don't know. And so I just went down every veteran I ended up talking to about 16 people over the course of 6 months. And I just asked, what do you do? What do you like about it? Here's what I've done. What do you think would be a good fit for me at Facebook? And they were all super gracious and like took the 20 minutes to tell me about it and explain it to me. So then on my 16th call, I happened to hit someone we connected really well. And he was like, hey, one of the guys that works for me is hiring a program manager in the data center world. You should talk to him. I was like, okay, great. Turns out that talking to was an interview, unbeknownst to me. But because I talked to so many people, all my stories sounded, I'm talking government contract proposal stories told with the lens of Facebook tech. So they use words like XFN for cross-functional. And I was like, you mean you just like talk to people not on your team? And they're like, yeah, that's it. Like, okay, I'll use that word. Great. So you just use those words, right? Or like they have like agile processes. And I'm like, okay, I read about agile. I'm like, got it. That is definitely the proposal process. So let me bring that in. So like all my stories became relevant. I could tell stunt double stories with a Facebook product lens because I learned so much about Facebook and like the industry generally and like all these folks that work there. It was awesome. So then when I'm talking to him and he's like, would you like to work in a data center? And I was like, what is a server? I don't know what that is. And he's like, well, they're in the data center, a lot of them. And don't worry about it. We need someone that can really just run programs and projects, um, and is able to like learn quickly. And it turns out I was a great fit, and I had an absolutely amazing time on that team. Um,
Mhm.
and I learned a ton, which was great. And I was able to like deliver value quickly just because of my military experience is just pure project management plugged in to hard problems, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But if I hadn't been able to make that interpretation and that link, it would have
Mm-hmm.
gone nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a key part of storytelling too, as well, is like being able to tell your story, but being able to make the connections within your story that you're telling someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to
Okay.
so they can like see themselves in the story, They're
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah, I
Yeah.
experienced that. That sounds right. That feels right.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that's a skill in itself. Like it seems easy, but it's something that's difficult. If especially when you're trying to transition and pivot, it's like, okay, I have these skills. Sometimes I have skills I don't know I have. How do I make this relevant and how can they transfer over?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The others,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like from Facebook, I also learned that like if you're interviewing for like a big company,
Mm-hmm.
before you step into that interview, just find a couple people, not directly in the line, and be like, hey, can we talk real quick? I'm going in for an interview. I'm just looking for some advice. And hopefully, like, maybe they'll talk to you. And then you'll find out the real dirt on the company as well. So you
Uh-huh.
know what you're
Uh-huh.
getting into. But you
Mm-hmm.
just have more context.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Is there anything that has been just monumental in your success through all of these different pivots and transitions? Is there anything that you just stand by or that you hold closely to yourself?
That's interesting. I would have to say that you just have to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Especially in the beginning, like networking it's awkward. It's weird. Every time I get on a call, I'm like, see how this goes. And I've been doing it a ton, you know what I mean? Like, and I
Yeah.
help a lot of people behind me and things like that. But even still, every time,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. And so for me, I can't rely on my motivation. I just have to book it, right? I'm like, I need to
Mm-hmm.
do at least 2 networking calls a week or 4 a month or like whatever my goal is for that time
Mm-hmm.
period.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it just works. In the long term, networking is the thing that's going to make your career.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything that you've learned now that you own your own business?
I am learning a ton. Well, I'm learning even
Mhm.
more now because
Yeah.
I'm like talking to everyone I know that's ever had a startup or anything. I'm like, hey, what are you doing in this situation? How did you find product market fit? What did you
Yeah.
do when you encountered this problem? My network's even more important because
Mm-hmm.
you have to wear so many hats with a startup. I
Yeah.
mean, you see it. Like you have to do your
Mm-hmm.
website, your marketing, any sales things that you're gonna do. You had to
Mm-hmm.
figure out podcasting. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
a lot of people don't figure that out. They're like, I'll listen to
Mhm.
them on one and a
Yep.
half speed, but I will not.
Most
Um,
importantly, the 1.5 speed.
I feel like the knowledge is just getting like shot into my brain. It's amazing. I love it.
Yeah. 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 No, good. So outside of work, right? Because work tends to be a big part of our life, but outside of work, are there any routines that you have or things that you have to do that you absolutely love that enrich your life?
I go to the gym regularly. In fact, I put it on my
Hmm.
calendar. I actually do it during the workday because I mean I have kids and I'm like, look, if you want me to be a healthier, happier employee, then I should probably go to the gym. It's only 10 minutes down the road, so it's
Yeah.
great. Um,
Hmm.
and then the other thing that I have a treadmill desk. I'm standing on it right now, and I adore it. I love it so
Yeah.
much. Because
Yeah.
then you're moving all day instead of just sitting. When I was sitting, I was getting my back hurt, my neck hurt, like so much pain. And since I've
Hmm.
been walking,
Hmm.
like, so many benefits. It's been awesome. Um,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
That's a sign for me because that was on my list of like, if I want anything for my birthday coming up, I think I want one of those walking treadmills.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
But yeah, I don't know how that's going to go if I'm talking to people and I'm just like, so how are you feeling?
It was weirder during a meeting, but I definitely at work, if you work for a big company and you
Yeah.
you can do it
Mhm.
during meetings, especially like big town meetings and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other people start doing it. They're like, oh, it's fine, I can do it. And then like
Yeah. Yeah.
you're
It's
not
like
the
you
only
give
one.
them permission. It's okay.
Exact. Sometimes you just need, you're like, I won't be the only weirdo. It's fine. Good.
Okay, I'm gonna get that. Are there any tools that you use in your business now that you feel are essential?
So I used to use Calendly all the time, but Google just popped out with a calendar thing, so that
Mm-hmm.
you can use that, and I use that all the time. Anytime someone's like, "Hey, do you want to meet?" I'm like, "Yes." Here's my calendar link. Like, I
Ah,
hated the back and forth of like, "What about this time? What about that time? What about this time?"
yep.
Hated it. So
Mm-hmm.
any calendaring app is absolutely critical. And then the other thing I use all the time is ChatGPT, just as like my 80% solution. Um,
Yeah.
I much prefer to edit
Mm-hmm.
than to come up from scratch. And there's definitely times where I've replaced every single word given to me by
Yeah.
ChatGPT for whatever it is I'm
Yep.
doing, but I had a kernel, and that's all I need
Mm-hmm.
to like start and figure it out. So like
Yeah.
those are the two tools that I would say are indispensable.
Good. 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 So, what do you feel is something that most people are getting wrong in your industry or maybe need assistance with?
So, I mean, we talked about networking, but the reason I think
Yeah.
that's super important, especially in
Yeah.
tech, is 2021, tons of hiring. Since then, it's just been layoff after layoff. I was at one company, I think they've been through 5 layoffs now.
Mm-hmm.
While I was there was two, and I was like, I don't think I should stay much longer. Um, I think it's just happening a lot, and the only way you can protect yourself is to have a strong network so that
Mm-hmm.
if the worst happens, you're ready.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. Now, Kathy, you've done a lot here, and you've transitioned a lot, and you're pretty remarkable, pretty incredible. Um, so my question is do you have an end goal? And if not an end goal, what's your next goal?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know if I have an end goal specifically outside
Mm-hmm.
of, so I have kids, and the only thing I work towards is how can you shape work so that it fits your life instead
Yeah.
of the other way around. I think a lot of people like shape life around their work. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I get burned out, I get unhappy,
Yeah.
and then I'm not like the best parent that I can be. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we only get the one life, just the
Yeah.
one. And I don't want to
Yep.
look back and be like, I worked a lot of hours. I don't know
Yeah.
why. So I
Yeah.
just want to
Yeah.
live like I want to do really awesome things for people. So this is why I really like being in the veteran space, because I'm helping a
Yeah.
group of I get the whole value and the mission and all that kind of stuff of like helping people that are having all of the heartache and challenges that I did. And so like
Mm-hmm.
that makes me feel great. And then I
Yeah.
also get to do it while living a life that I can be like super happy with and proud with. And maybe there's a
Yeah.
season later where my kids are in high school and ignoring me, where I'm going to work my face off some more, and that'll be
Right.
great.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of kids, is there anything you would tell your younger self or any advice you would give your younger self?
I think the best thing my younger self ever did was not have children young, because I
Hmm.
was
Hmm.
way too selfish.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I mean, I was very much concerned, like, well, am I having a good time? Um,
Hmm.
and now I've transitioned to, are we having a good time? I'm not
Yeah.
quite at, are they having a good time? I think I'm stay with we. Are we having a good time?
Yep,
Uh,
yep.
but I mean, I think my the coolest part about parenting to me
Hmm.
is that in addition to like, oh, the kids, they're awesome. I love them.
Hmm.
But the things you do, they do. And so you get to
Yeah.
see how that actually comes off in real life. Um,
Hmm. Yes.
we have a toddler. We have a 2-year-old, and I have a 9 and 7-year-old. And
Hmm.
I parent my toddler. I'm like, hey, buddy, like we can't do this, or like let's do this instead of this. and I get to watch my 9-year-old come. And when my toddler's melting down, he's like, "Hey, buddy, let's do this instead of this." And you're like, "Wow,
Ah,
well
yeah.
done, sir. You just diverted a tantrum, and I wasn't even involved."
Yep. Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's beautiful. I love that. I love seeing just how they mimic you, and then sometimes you're like, maybe I need to change that because
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. There's a
yeah,
lot.
I don't like how that comes back. Yeah, yeah. No, that's good. That's good. Okay, so now I have a rapid fire round. Okay, and so you're just going to answer these in either one sentence or just a yes or a no. It's just a very quick, I don't want you to think too much about it, but we're just going to go for it. Okay, whatever comes to mind. Okay. Do you have any routine that supports your day? I know you mentioned working out. Is there anything else that really supports your day?
My calendar. If it's not on the calendar, it
Hmm.
doesn't exist.
What is wealth to you?
Comfortable.
Hmm. Any future goals that you haven't shared, and it doesn't have to be work related?
I want to go to the Olympics to watch in 2028 because it's in
Ooh.
LA.
Okay, let's put that out there. Let's make that happen. I like that. Okay. What can people optimize that might advance their career?
Stop doing the things that you think are important and ask your boss if they're actually important.
Hmm. Maybe a best quote that you've heard or something that resonates with you right now.
Oh, there was one. We just watched The Greatest Showman because my kids love the music. And at the
Uh-huh.
end, and I'm gonna butcher it, but it was basically like, like at the end of the day, we're all just trying to be like happy people. It
Yeah.
was just something around that because like
Hmm.
everything he did, he brought like passion to it and fun, and you could tell like there was joy in the doing and the figuring out, even though it was
Yeah.
really hard and that guy failed a lot.
Yeah. 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 Oh, I love that. Happiness. I love that. So, if people wanted to reach out to you and wanted to connect with you, where can they find you?
Oh, find me on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Kathy Borkoski on LinkedIn. Drop me a DM. Let me
Hmm.
know if any of this has helped at all. And
Yeah.
if you're a transitioning service member, then definitely give me a follow,
Yep.
send me a DM. Let me know how it's going.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kathy, for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And one more thing before you go. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, leave it 5 stars, and share it with a friend. That incredibly helps our channel out. And we don't want you to miss any amazing nuggets that could change your life in any way or someone you know. So please share this with a friend and remember, you have the power to design your remarkable life.